Hey everyone, Go Reviews here. I hope you all are staying safe and staying busy. I felt like today would be a good day to make a new video. Usually I've been doing only Survivor recap videos because I love Survivor. But when I was looking back at some of my videos, it occurred to me that I haven't made a video in my I Have Autism series in about 2 years. And I took a minute to think about what I could use as a topic, and I thought, what better thing to do than going to cons. So this will be titled I Have Autism Going to Cons. The reason why I titled it that is because when you go to cons, you have to deal with something that can be challenging for somebody with Asperger's like me to go to cons. And the reason being is because you have to deal with big crowds. That can be very overwhelming, and depending on the place and the situation, there's different ways to adapt to that. I'm especially going to highlight my experiences when I go to cons with Lana, Parrilla, and Hershey, because the only time I do go to cons is to meet those two wonderful ladies. So both of those I adapt differently. Now, I've met Lana, I think about 5 times, I want to say, and with all of the exception of one of the cons has been relatively smaller. It's still a big crowd. It was Once Upon a Time themed convention, so there was only like 6, maybe Once Upon a Time attendees. I mean, the crowd was still big because it was in like a hotel lobby area, but it can be overwhelming. The other one I met Lana at was at MegaCon in Orlando, and that was a lot bigger than I'm used to. So going with those two different type of cons is totally different. I found that when I go to cons, if they have, I always just try to ask if they have I always ask what their ADA accommodation is for, because they could have anything from you're allowed to have a service dog, you could have somebody stand in line with you. Each con's different and has their own ADA accommodations, and sometimes, even though they do have accommodations, it's not always the best. I found mostly when I've gone to cons, the most accommodations it can give you is you can have somebody stand in line with you, so you don't have to stand in line all that time. The other one being that you can go to you wouldn't be the very first person in line, but you'd have a few people go ahead of you, and you basically can bypass the rest of the line. So technically you're not the first in line, but you could bypass the, waiting in line. And each person with Asperger's is different. I know for a fact, in my case, when I go to cons, just being in the big crowds, and it could get kind of loud at the cons, it can be very overwhelming. So I found that when I meet Lana, I need to take all the ADA accommodations I can get, because I need them with Lana. Lana is amazing and wonderful, and this isn't her fault or anything. She's wonderful when I go up to meet her, very, very understanding. But I get so nervous and so anxious when I meet her, to the point where I get physically ill. So if I don't have those accommodations, it ruins the experience for me. And I remember the first time I ever met Lana, I was so nervous. I felt like my whole entire body was going numb, because I'm about to meet my hero. I think anybody, even if you don't have autism, I think anybody would agree that meeting your hero for the first time, they'd probably have the same feelings. So there might have been miscommunication or whatever, but I was sitting watching people go to meet Lana, and they had multiple things for her to autograph with only one ticket, and usually one ticket, one thing to autograph. So then I got confused when I went up to meet her, because I didn't want her to autograph a bunch of things. I just had a picture I bought, and I brought one from home. That's all. So that could have been, miscommunication. That could be totally my fault. But the thing that made me more nervous is, I don't know who said it at the con, but they said that we couldn't talk to Lana. And it was right before I got in line, so I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do? I can't talk to Lana. Like, I'm just going to go up there and... So I couldn't say... I didn't know what to say to her, because I was told I couldn't say anything. And Lana pretty much saved the day, because that would have been a very bad con experience. But Lana, was very patient, and I finally got up the courage to, start talking to her, and she was very nice and very, very, very patient. So, again, I think part of that was miscommunication, but also had to do with anxiety. When I met with her in MegaCon, again, like I mentioned, that's a whole different setting than what I'm used to. I was very nervous, and the ADA accommodations there was that you could have somebody stand in line for you. Well, that doesn't necessarily work if there's only two people. Like, if I bring somebody and they stand in line for me, that's not fair that I get to go around, look at the booths and everything, and they have to stand in line for me, because they may not be as big a fan of Lana as I am, so it's not fair to them to stand in line for 30, 40 minutes, and I get to go do the con. I mean, you're still technically waiting. Anyway, that was awful in the sense that I've never been as anxious as I've been when I went to that con. And I think it was because I've never been to a con of that size before, and I was waiting in line for 40 minutes to an hour to meet her, and I'm already, what I call Lana nervous. And I went up to meet her, and somebody had bumped into me, and it totally wasn't their fault. They apologized, but I don't know what happened, but that set me off. Like, I could not breathe. I was so overwhelmed. I was having a full-blown panic attack. I was already nervous because being in the con setting. When I meet Lana, I find that I'm so nervous that I don't take the best photo op, so I was already thinking very low myself, looking at the photo op, and I'm like, oh my god, I just can't take a good photo op, and then to be overwhelmed and then have the person bump into me. I had a panic attack. Like, I was so embarrassed, and Lana actually came from behind the table, behind her table, said she knew me, and she was very patient. She walked with me and said, which picture do you like the best? And she let me, have that time to talk with her. So I was very grateful about that, because, again, it's no fault of Lana's at all. It's, just being in that setting's overwhelming, and I have to say, Lana is very, very, as I mentioned before, she's very patient and understanding, and just so generous with her time. Like, she totally understands when her fans are nervous, and, I mean, obviously, Lana has a huge line, so you can't talk to her for like 10 minutes, even though we would all love to do that, but she lets you have that time with her to talk with her. Now, it's a totally different case when I meet Barbara, because when I first met Barbara, I remember being the typical kind of nervous in line. I wasn't anxious as I usually am when I meet Lana. I think it's kind of the typical, like, first time meeting somebody thing. And I went up to her, and I remember my mom saying, you know, make sure you tell her who you are. Make sure you tell her who you are. I get up to her, and she recognizes me right away, and it was just amazing. Like, I find it so much easier to talk to Barbara. And I find that each time I go to a con she attends, her cons are a lot more, less crowds. Now, it's a con, so of course there's going to be a lot of people there, but I find that with her cons, it's, like a relatively smaller con, so there's a lot less crowds than something like MegaCon was. So that helps a little bit, and it also helps that Barbara's very... I honestly could write a book about how great she is, because when I go to a con, like, I go up to her like I known her for years. I just go up and talk to her, and I'm not necessarily afraid to talk to her. You know, like, I find when I go to cons and I see where Lana is, all I get is like, oh my god, I can't breathe. Oh my god. When I meet Barbara, I'm just like, oh my god, there's Barbara. And the one thing about Barbara I notice that's different than other people I've met, and this, I'm not just talking about Lana, like, I've met other people at cons too. The difference is, and what I respect greatly about Barbara, is the fact that, you know, when you have autism, you don't necessarily like the, interaction can be kind of difficult, like, and I mean, what I mean by that is, when, somebody gets really close to you, or when somebody hugs you, that can make somebody very nervous and kind of make them standoffish, because on one hand, you don't want to be rude or disrespectful, but at the same time, they're kind of invading your personal space. So when I met somebody, I don't remember who it was, at a Once Upon a Time convention. I think it was during the photo op. I really don't remember who it was, but they just came right up and hugged me, and I'm just like, oh my god. And my face in the picture, you could tell, like, I looked like a deer caught in the headlights. When I met Barbara, she came up to me, she was like, oh, you know, I don't know, is it okay if I hug you? Because I don't know how you feel about the hugging. I'm like, oh my god, that is literally the first person that has asked me to do that, and she still does. And I gotta say, Barbara is the only person I let hug me, because she asked for permission, first of all, and it just kind of, I know, I just greatly respect that she did that. Like, I've never had anybody ask for permission before, and she's very well... I think both Barbara and Lana are both aware at this point, because I think I've met both of them enough that they know I have autism, so they kind of know how to interact with me at this point, but they don't... I mean, it's kind of different with Lana, because I'm more nervous with Lana, so she kind of takes her time with me, and is very, I find sometimes she kind of has to help me get the conversation out. Like, I don't know how to get my words formed, but when I meet with Barbara, it's just like normal talking. Like, I don't usually have a problem talking with Barbara, and if I appear nervous, she's very good at spotting that, and she is very patient and will try to help you out. Like, I remember one instance, I don't even remember what it was about, but I think I remember. I was dealing with a lot of bullying, and it was really getting me down. And I think I mentioned something to Barbara. I'm not sure. And I was just had a lot of emotions hit me at once. You know, dealing with all the bullying and discrimination, and then being again in that con setting. My hands started to flap, and it's not like the obvious, because sometimes I find my fingers will go like this and I don't even know it. It's just a common reaction. My hands were literally like flapping like this, and it was obvious. So, like, it wasn't an obvious, like, flapping of the hands. And I was nervous. I started to, I wouldn't say shut down, but I was pretty close to it. And she took what my hands, so my hands just started, yeah, my hands stopped flapping. And then she just wrapped her arms around me and gave me a hug. And I was just like, I lost it. And I was just like, oh my God. I was just like, you saved my life. Because I think that's also what, oh my God, I feel so bad. Because I would just started crying. I was like, you saved my life. Because she did. I thanked her because she helped me so much just by being her, just by being so kind and generous and an amazing freaking human being, if I might add. And she really helped me grow as a person, and I wouldn't have become who I am without her. So I was just very grateful, and everything, and all the emotions hit me at once. And I remember in, like, the middle of that, I told her, I'm getting, like, kind of emotional thinking about it. I said, it's true, you saved my life, and I'm crying. And then I go to take my selfie of her at the table, and she's starting to tear up, and I feel bad. I'm like, oh my God, I just made Barbara cry, now I'm crying again. And I was like, but it was just kind of a, sweet human moment that you're able to interact with people like Barbara or even Lana on that human level. And I think that's why I love going to cons to meet Barbara, because for one, her cons are a lot less overwhelming, and she's just amazing. Like, she talks to me like she would anybody else. She respects me as a person and a human being, and I admire her dearly. From what I've told you about her here, and I won't go too much anymore in my con experiences with Barbara, because for one thing, that's personal, and yeah, basically it's just personal, and I want to keep those special moments special, you know what I mean? So with that being said, ADA accommodations are key at cons. I definitely think that they do need to change ADA accommodations, and what I've suggested to the cons before, because I've emailed them asking, hey, what are your ADA accommodations, and they've emailed me back, okay, this is what they are, and I found that a lot of them aren't very helpful at all. So when they ask, what would you suggest, I try to think, okay, what would help me out with, and I don't know, I found that from interacting with Lana, what would help in that situation is if I can get my autograph with Lana in, like, a quiet room, because it's very loud and there's a lot of people there. So, and Lana's goes significantly quicker than it does with Barbara, so that's why I'm able to have that more one-on-one interaction with Barbara than with Lana, because Lana has a lot of fans and they all line up to meet her, and I totally get it. Lana's very popular, and I totally understand that, but at the same time, it's overwhelming, because you feel that pressure that you're being rushed in a way, because you do want all these people to have that time with her too. So I found in that situation, what could potentially be very helpful is meeting Lana in, like, a quiet room, have her autograph whatever I bring, and having that, being able to say just, a few things to her. Like, I feel like that would be a much better experience. Now, the problem with that is, and I totally see the negative aspect of that, is, like, I feel like I feel like that would be better because then you're not in like the crowded area and you could just relax. But then there's a big downside to that. You have, with ADA accommodations, sometimes cons have no choice but to put those rules in place because people unfortunately do take advantage of it. Some people genuinely, like me, do need the accommodations, but some people do take advantage of it for the sole purpose of getting to be first in line. And that's not necessarily the case of me. Like, of course, anybody would love being first in line, but the negative drawback being first in line is that you have all those people behind you, so you're kind of rushed in a way. Like, I don't want to be first, I just don't want to have to wait like hours to meet somebody. Like, I remember the last time I went to a Once Upon a Time convention to meet Lana, I asked what accommodations could they offer me, and they said at first, the first time I asked them, they said that they could offer me access to, they have 1 through 50 go, 50 through 100 go, like kind of have them go by sections, and then I get to be the first of that section. That doesn't necessarily make any sense and isn't very helpful because let's just say for conversation's sake, I'm the very last person out of 250 to 300, then I'm the very last person to go and I still have to wait all that time. So that's not helping me any, and I'm just sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting and getting more anxious by the minute. So I think it's very helpful if you can meet them in a quieter, more relaxed setting. The problem is, how do you determine who can have that access? Because, like I said, some people do take advantage of it for the sole purpose of getting in line first. So that would be ideal ADA accommodations for me. Like, I'm not looking for a VIP experience. I'm just looking for a more relaxed setting just so I can have, a better time an easier, I shouldn't say better time because I always have a good time talking with Lana, but an easier time talking with Lana. Like, I feel like that would be very helpful and make my con experience more memorable. Now, I don't necessarily need those accommodations of Barbara. I can wait in line knowing in the back of my head that it's a more relaxed experience of Barbara. Like, I can have that time and talk with her. Like, I'm very respectful. Like, if somebody else is coming in line, okay, then I know, dial it back a bit, wind it down, let other people have their time. Now, granted, sometimes I'll come back and visit Barbara, but, I'm very respectful that other people have that time, but I know that I can take my time with Barbara. Like, I don't have to, I don't feel rushed, basically. So, it's not that cons don't have ADA accommodations, because they do have to have ADA accommodations. It's just that I feel like they could be better. Like, there just basically has to be a balance. Like, the ADA accommodations, the ADA accommodations could be better, but at the same time, you also have to have a system in place so that people don't take advantage of it, because then they'll ruin it to the point where nobody could get, well, they can't have it that nobody would get access, but they'd have it so that it's a more difficult time trying to get that access. So definitely, if crowds make you overwhelmed, definitely I shouldn't say take advantage because I don't like that term, but definitely utilize the ADA accommodations if you need them. If you do not need accommodations, then let somebody else who needs the accommodations have them, because that's very important. Some things when I'm in big crowds, when I go to cons, I find that listening to music helps. I mean, it might sound weird because one might argue, well, you're trying to drown out the noise around you, but you're listening to loud music. I find that I have a Disney playlist on my phone, so I'll put that in. I'll put it on not high enough that it blows my eardrums, but I'll put it on high enough that I could hear. Like if I'm with somebody, I have it high enough that I could still hear them, but I could kind of tune out the noise around me. So I'll put on like like I said, I have a Disney playlist, so I'll put that on. I love Disney music. I'm not very musically inclined, but Disney music I love. So I found that Disney music relaxes me, it calms me, and I'm able to navigate through the crowds better. So I definitely recommend, if you have like favorite songs or whatever on your phone, make like a playlist. You could make a going to con playlist, or you could simply just put favorite songs and do it that way. Another thing is that if you have anxiety meds, definitely take them before you go to the con. I found that helps. Like I know if I don't take my anxiety meds before I go to the con, I find I'm more prone to get chest pains very easily, because the big crowds is one of my triggers for an anxiety attack. And they could sometimes come out of nowhere at a con. Like, even if I'm having, a good old time talking with Barbara, I could still have an anxiety attack because I'm just in that setting with the big crowds and the loud noise. So, cons, I know, well, not necessarily cons, but big crowds I know are a trigger for a panic attack. So, if you find that big crowds, loud noises, or if you know you're going to be really nervous, definitely take your meds before you go. So, yeah, the reason why I focused solely on Lana and Barbara is because, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, when I do go to cons, those are who I go to cons for. And one might argue, well, if you get so nervous at cons, why do you keep going back? And one might think, well, if something makes you that anxious, why do you keep going back? The reason why I keep going back is because Lana is, in my opinion, she was the hardest soul of Once Upon a Time, and that show changed my life. Like, I've never seen anything like that show before. I don't think there'll be anything like that again. And her character, Regina, I just found so relatable, and I connected to that character on a personal level. So not only did Lana, but her character Regina help me as a person. In general terms, I kind of learned from her character that basically to learn to love yourself, because I don't think very highly of myself. And, a happy ending doesn't have to necessarily be with a significant other. Having a happy ending could be either loving yourself or finding your place in the world. And I think that's very special, and it's not always easy to do. And I feel like I connected with Regina in the sense that Regina was also alone in the world, and she didn't really have anybody, and she tried to change herself for other people, but still people always saw her as the evil queen. And I kind of relate to that in my own life, because when people hear the word autism, they automatically think, oh, you can't talk, you can't function in society, you're not going to have a job, the only job you'll ever have is to fold papers or put a paper in a folder, because that's what I was told. So I've learned from that you're not gonna, sometimes people are just freaking rude and ignorant, and they can't see past the end of their nose, and you're not going to be able to change them, but you can, you know, I wouldn't say change yourself, but work on yourself. And if they don't like who you are, then they're definitely not worth your time. So on that end of it, that's why I feel like I connect so much with Regina and Lana. And Lana is just, I've never met anybody like her either. She's just so nice and has such a big heart. Like, she's always, I see her all the time make these t-shirt campaigns, which are very creative, and I think all the evil Regals can agree, like, they're brilliant. We all love them. But it always goes to some charity, and we see her go to charity events. Like, she's very charitable, she's very compassionate, and she sees you for you. She doesn't, not that she would, but she's not, like, concerned about your past. Like I said, not that anyone would be, but she sees you for you and likes you for who you are. So that's what meeting Lana is always such a great experience. It makes me feel so good at the end. Like, before I go to meet her, I'm so anxious to the point where I'm gonna, but after the fact, I feel so much better. I'm just like, I met Lana. Oh my god. Did you see? Look at my picture. I met Lana. Like, I'll talk about that for days. And with Barbara, I mean, she's an amazing person too. I have so much respect and admiration for her. She just has such a beautiful soul and such a kind heart. And she has amazing talent, I'll tell you that much. And she just has this ability to light up the room just by her smile. I've said that how many times to her, but it's true. Like, you could be nervous going up to meet her, but then the second you see her and she smiles, it's just like, oh, was I anxious? Oh, was I nervous? So they're both totally amazing people, and if you ever go to a convention, definitely take the opportunity, if you can, to meet Lana and Barbara, because they are truly exceptional human beings. I totally recommend going to meet them. I hope you guys enjoyed my video. Lana, Barbara, I hope you guys watched this, and if you did watch this, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I just hope basically you enjoyed it and you found it informative, and, you know, enjoyed me telling you how I like my con experiences with you, but also are knowledgeable on how somebody like me is at a con. But you guys already know that. You guys already know how to interact with me. You've met me, like, how many times already? So this is, like, no walk in the... This is, like, it's like no walk in the park for you. You guys are used to me already. You guys are probably sick of me at this point. So, yeah, definitely if you can't meet Lana and Barbara, you know, it's unfortunate, but if you can't, for whatever reason, meet them at a con, definitely follow them on Twitter. They are both on Twitter. Amazing people. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Stay safe. And until next time, stay regal.